In 19 through 29, we're asked to perform the indicated operations and simplify. We can leave our numerators and denominators in our final answer in factored form. So, when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across, but we want to simplify first. So I'm going to factor each of the numerators and denominators. Since I factored a 3 from the numerator, I'm going to factor a 3 from the denominator. And then we can cancel common factors, the 3's. And in fact, if we factor that 4 a little further into 2 times 2, now we can cancel one of the factors of 2. That's going to leave us with a final result of y minus 1 divided by 2 times y plus 1. In 20, we have a division. In order to perform a division, we change the second fraction to the reciprocal and change the operation to multiplication. So I'm going to leave the first fraction as is, but I'm going to factor the numerator and denominator. I'm going to write the reciprocal or flip the second fraction and factor its numerator and denominator. Actually, only the denominator factors. And then cancel common factors. And then multiply m squared on top. And we're going to multiply on the bottom, but we just write the intention to multiply. We don't have to actually multiply. We can leave it in factored form. In 21, we have a multiplication, no flipping necessary. So I'm going to factor the numerator. We can factor a 2. That leaves us with 5 minus w. And then that 15, we probably may need to factor that into 3 times 5. And then the numerator of the next fraction, we can factor into 3 times 2. And then the denominator can be factored into w times w minus 5. Now we can cancel some common factors. We have common factors of 3 in the numerator and denominator. The 2's cannot cancel, they're both numerator factors, so they're not able to be divided out. And then we also have factors of 5 minus w and w minus 5, which are opposites. When we divide those, that leaves us with a negative 1. So now collecting all the factors, we have negative 1 times 2 in the numerator is negative 4. And in the denominator, monomial factors of 5w. And I thought we had another factor, but we don't. So final answer is just negative 4 divided by 5w. In 22, we have a multiplication, and the first fraction can be factored to n minus 5 times n minus 2 in the denominator. And then the second fraction is really n squared minus 5n over 1. But I'm going to factor the n squared minus 5n to n times n minus 5. And now I'm going to cancel my common factors. The n's don't cancel because they're both factors in the numerator. So now we're just going to multiply straight across n squared divided by n minus 2. In 23, we have a multiplication, so I'm simply going to factor the numerators and denominators. Be careful with this difference of squares right here. The order is 25 first and r squared second. So when we factor, it factors to 5 plus r times 5 minus r. The order is important in the subtraction. When we subtract, order makes a difference. The r squared in the denominator can be factored into r times r. In the numerator of the second fraction, r times r plus 4, and in the denominator, r minus 5 times r plus 4. Now we can cancel or divide out any factors that are common to a numerator and denominator. So factors of r, factors of r plus 4. And remember that r minus 5 and 5 minus r are opposites, so when I cancel those, that's going to leave us with a negative 1. And what's left is negative, and I'll just change the order on that addition, r plus 5, 5 plus r, same thing, and then that's over r. You can put that negative out in front of the fraction if you don't like using parentheses around the numerator. In 24, we have a division. I'm going to leave that first fraction alone other than just factoring it. Y squared minus 16 factors into y plus 4 times y minus 4. Y squared minus 10y plus 25 factors into y minus 5 times y minus 5, or y minus 5 squared if you want to write it that way. Since it's a division, we're going to change it to multiplication and flip over the second fraction, or write its reciprocal. So the denominator, y squared minus 3y minus 10, is going to go to the numerator. And when we factor it, y minus 5 times y plus 2, and 3y minus 12 is in the numerator, it's going to move to the denominator and then factor it 3 times y minus 4. Now we can cancel or divide out our common factors. Y minus 4 is common to numerator and denominator. Y minus 5 is also, and I believe that's all the common factors that we have. So I'm going to write the final result and leave the numerator in factored form, y plus 4 times y plus 2. And then in the denominator, we write our monomial factor first, 3 times y minus 5. And there's our final answer. You can multiply out the factors if you want, but it's not necessary. And also, if you multiply them out, you must do so correctly. All right, 25. So in 25, we have a division. So I'm going to leave the first fraction alone and then change it to multiplication. When we factor the numerator of the first fraction, common factor x can be factored out. 3 minus x is left over. When we factor the denominator of the first fraction, we get x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. That's the difference of cubes. And then we're going to flip the second fraction. X squared plus 3x plus 9 doesn't factor, don't worry. And then we can cancel the common factors of x squared plus 3x plus 9, cancel the common factors of x, and our x minus 3 and 3 minus x are opposite factors. That's going to leave us with a factor of negative 1 in the numerator. I'm writing it as a negative 1 since there are no other factors in the numerator, so the numerator will be negative 1, and the denominator will be, I guess, positive 1, and that means that this whole thing simplifies to negative 1. We never write a final answer with a division by 1. In 26, we have a multiplication, so I'm going to factor the numerator of the first fraction. K squared can be written as k times k. 9k squared minus 4 is the difference of squares. 3k plus 2 times 3k minus 2. And then we can factor the numerator of the second fraction. And you may want to do this off to the side if you're factoring by grouping and splitting the middle term. However, the end result should be 5k plus 1 times 3k minus 2. In the denominator of the second fraction, common factor of k may be factored, and that will leave us with 5k plus 1. And now we can cancel some common factors. 3k minus 2 is common to a numerator and denominator. A factor of k also, a factor of 5k plus 1. That leaves us with a final answer of k divided by 3k plus 2. In 27, we have a multiplication, and our numerator has 4 terms. That means it's probably going to need to be factored by grouping. And so when we factor it by grouping, a squared times a plus b plus 1 times a plus b. And that's going to give us a numerator of a plus b times a squared plus 1. the first fraction's denominator can be factored into 5a times a squared plus 1. The second fraction's numerator can be factored into 6 times a times a. A squared can always be factored into a times a. And then downstairs, 2 times a squared minus b squared. Let's cancel whatever common factors we can now. There may be more work to do here. A squared plus 1 is common to numerator and denominator. And then I believe we also have a factor of a that can go away. All right, let's take a look at what's left. If we collect our factors, we have 6 times a plus b divided by 10 times a squared minus b squared. Well, the 6 can be factored into 2 times 3, and the 10 can be factored into 2 times 5. A squared minus b squared can be factored into a plus b times a minus b. Now we can do some more canceling. Factors of 2 and factors of a plus b. That's going to leave us with a final result of 3 divided by 5 times a minus b. For 28, we have a division. The numerator can't be factored in the first fraction. The denominator can be factored into u minus 4 times u plus 3. Change that division to multiplication and flip the second fraction, so our denominator is now 1, and we can factor a u from the numerator times 4 minus u. Now let's cancel our common factors. U minus 4 and 4 minus u are opposites. That's going to leave us with a negative 1. The u's in the numerator do not cancel because they are both factors of the numerator. So multiplying through, negative u squared divided by u plus 3 is the final answer. All right, last one. In 29, 5x to the fourth minus 3x squared minus 2 is a trinomial that can be factored into 5x squared plus 2 times x squared minus 1. The denominator is x minus 1. And in the numerator of the second fraction, x plus 1 divided by, and now we have the difference of squares, x squared plus 1 times x squared minus 1. We can cancel our common factors of x squared minus 1. And I believe that those are all the factors that can be canceled. So our numerator in the final result is 5x squared plus 2 times x plus 1. And the denominator is x squared plus 1 times x minus 1. Those factors can be written in any order.